towards the end of the med school, I was realizing that I want to create an impact beyond the patient. So I wanted to work at that point when the person becomes a patient.
Can you start with giving some sense in terms of what are the different areas of healthcare where you're seeing AI is being used or is likely to be used?
At the same time, they can also look for different protein structures. So protein structure is a very complicated thing, and that plays a very important role with drug availability, drug function, pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics. So AI can help in simulation, AI can help in understanding those protein structures. So that can also reduce a lot of crimes. Then comes to the clinical trial part. In clinical trial part, there is something called digital twin.
Now let's come to the second part where the doctors and patients are concerned. How AI is making inroads and what are the different areas where it is being used?
In clinical space, everything starts from detection. AI will be able to identify and detect those findings which were previously either deprioritized or were either missed. But that was an opportunity to detect the lung cancer on that patient. This is what we are doing in AI. Scan, which is read by artificial intelligence, even before the radiologist open this, now this scan will go up the queue.
The time when a person becomes a patient. So is AI making some inroads there that before I become a patient of anything, can AI detect that or can indicate that, okay, this is going to happen? There's a new term which people keep hearing, personalized medicine. So what is that and where is that AI angle into this? Good morning, good evening. Welcome to a brand new episode of FutureForward, a podcast series by Techcanvass on artificial intelligence, business analysis, and product management. Today, we're going to talk about AI in healthcare. So, AI is impacting every industry and sector, right from financial services to agriculture. A few weeks back, we had a discussion on how AI is impacting financial services. That was a very interesting discussion. So, you can get the link on the screen to check that out. Today, we are going to talk about how AI is impacting healthcare. And this concerns all of us. To talk about this, we have Dr. Rohitashva Agrawal. So, Dr. Rohit is a global physician with 14 plus years of experience in AI, oncology, and medical innovation, delivering AI health solutions across the US, Africa, APAC, and India. Trained at Harvard Medical School, MIT, and Boston University with expertise in user-centric design, connected health innovation, and peer-reviewed research. Currently, is the Director of Medical Affairs and Strategy at Cure.ai, a company into AI-driven initiatives in lung health and oncology. Let's welcome Dr. Rohit. Hi, Dr. Rohit. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, sure. So, before we begin, why don't you talk about how did your journey started into the current profession?
That's a very interesting question, and I would be happy to talk about it. So, my parents are doctors. So, like most couples who are doctors, the kids of them only see them as the only thing that I saw growing up was to see my parents working with patients. So, of course, I also wanted to become a doctor. So, I did my med school from India. However, towards the end of the med school, I was realizing that I want to create an impact beyond the patient. So, I wanted to work at that point when the person becomes a patient. Mm-hmm. So I was exploring that domain, and after my completing my med school, I was working in surgical oncology because I was interested in surgery. Before I leave this medical space or clinical space completely or patient care completely, I wanted to be sure. So I worked in Subjectivity hospital for few months, and then I realized I really wanted to do something beyond the clinical domain. So I went to US. I got some scholarship. I did my master's in health policy management because my thought at that time was this was in 2012 that if I make a policy, that policy will have a wider impact. It will have an impact at global scale. It can have an impact at country level policies. So that was my idea, and I wanted to work at these big agencies like WHO, UN. In fact, that's what I started my master's in. However, that was the time when Uber, Amazon, Airbnb, they were all coming up. So Uber changed the way we hail cabs. Amazon changed the way we do shopping, and Airbnb was also an alternative model to the hotel accommodation. So I was curious, like, what can we do in healthcare space? So there is a space where there is nothing like global platform or tech that we use for healthcare. So that curiosity led me to a course in MIT where this was in 2013, where they were trying to figure out how technology would be used in healthcare space. So did a almost 8-9 months course where we did a project. I was the only clinician in that core group. Everyone was engineer. We developed a small EHR system that can be used on handheld devices. And also that was the time when entire world was switching from 2G to 3G. So now the buffering of videos or the speed of internet was not that main issue. So after completing that project, I was pretty sure that technology can be a big enabler. The impact that I wanted to create through policy can be done through technology much more fast, because you will have that technology into millions of people life and can touch so many lives. So that led to my fellowship at Harvard Medical School. This was focused on user-centered design because I wanted to learn how these technologies can be designed in a way which is user-centric, so that the users are able to use it and they are able to do what the technology expects them to do, and also to make it more useful for data generation so that the next step of improvement can be provided. So I did this user-centered fellowship for 2 years. I did a lot of projects in telemedicine, digital health. That was the time. Did in Hep C, Hep C, prostate cancer, hypertension, diabetes. Did a lot of projects. Then it was kind of a Swadesh moment. I came back to India. I thought I will start something here. I will start this digital revolution kind of a thing. But then I think that was not the right time. I tried for a year and a half, didn't succeed. I do work with some startups. We were active in health tech, but they also didn't get a lot of traction. So I went back again to US and I was doing a research in oncology. But then COVID happened. So my parents were here. So I came back. And that time people were looking for anyone who has done anything in digital health. So that was a very big catalyst, I would say, that kick-started the digital health revolution in India. And I was lucky to be part of it. So we worked with a group called Swasth Alliance, where we created a telemedicine platform with different big players. And we used to provide teleconsultation, we used to provide masks, sanitizers, all those things at that time. So that kind of gave me that confidence that yes, now digital health will start in India, and I stayed back. And sooner I realized there was something coming up called artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning. Those things were starting to get buzz because those technologies also got boost from the COVID. So I joined a small startup in Hyderabad because I just wanted to learn about AI. I was like, what is this thing about? What is this AI thing? And it was a small group of 5-6 researchers who were trying to do AI on digital pathology. So digital pathology is another domain where AI is making a big progress. So I started working with the product manager. I was working closely with CEOs. So I was looking at what are the pain points, how do you develop clinical evidence, what are the product development model, how do you manage this thing so it's commercially sustainable. So that gave me a good starting point. And of course, when I realized that there is much bigger thing that I can do in radiology, because in digital pathology, the main bottleneck is the data availability. The one thing I realized in AI, the only thing that will make it fast or make it useful would be data. So where is the digital data in healthcare space? The first thing is radiology, because most of the X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, they're all now viewed on digital screens. They are being taken digitally, they are stored digitally. So there is a lot of data that can be processed, that can be used to create AI. So that's how I joined Cure AI in 2022. I joined as a clinical research scientist because at that time they wanted someone who can help to translate the value proposition of AI in clinical terms, because ultimately you are going to impact patient lives. So if this AI is having this sensitivity specificity, what does it even mean in clinical world? How does it impact patients? How does it impact doctors? So it has to be translated in that metrics or in that vocabulary where it will make sense clinically. So I joined as a clinical research scientist, worked on a lot of evidence where we showed it can detect missed findings, it can reduce patient follow-ups, it can help in early stage diagnosis. Those are the clinical parameters that will move the needle on clinical domain. And that's how I started. And now I'm working as a director for medical affairs and strategy, where my main role is to help in translation of this, of course, and also with commercial sustainability, because whatever you developed, if it's not commercial sustainable, it will not be viable for long. So it has to go beyond that funding round. It has to go beyond from the ground round. It has to become self-sustainable, which is also commercially viable in some way.
So you touched upon a few areas, but healthcare is a vast field.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you start with giving some sense in terms of what are the different areas of healthcare where you're seeing AI is being used or is likely to be used?
So if you see healthcare at a macro level, there are three domains, I would say. There is one pharma domain, which is drug discovery devices, where you get those things that is needed for the patient. Then you come to the clinical domain. Clinical domain can be further divided into the detection phase, triage, treatment planning, and follow-up. Then beyond treatment, there is a full infrastructure that's running the show. That's operational metrics, administration, hospital administration, how do you manage insurance, how do you provide that care. So there is a big logistics behind it as well. So if you see, there are three. In my opinion, I would divide the healthcare into these three broad buckets. So we work with all across the spectrum. So we work with pharma players, pharma companies, where they have the resources, they have uh, resources to push AI, and of course, the ultimate user, the ultimate beneficiary would be the clinical domain, where the patients will be benefited because they will get better diagnosis, early diagnosis, and efficient diagnosis. The clinicians will be benefited because their work will become efficient. They will get more data points to make much more precise decision, and also to make decision with more confidence. And in the process, because this all logistics of healthcare admin or hospital administration, insurance, they all will benefit, because ultimately the two main important stakeholders, the clinician and the patients, are benefiting. So there will be a ripple over effect or spillover effect to these parts as well.
Okay. So let's talk about the first one, which is pharmaceutical, or drug discovery, or other areas. Is AI being used there, or how effective has AI been so far?
Yes, definitely, because in pharma industry, you can think their work can be divided into two broad categories. First is drug discovery, and to show that the drug works, that's a clinical trial space. These two are, I would consider, as a broad two buckets where AI is making big impact. So in drug discovery, of course, the drug discovery is a very expensive, very long process. It can take up to $2 billion or more than $1 billion to develop one drug molecule, and it can take up to 10 to 15 years to get it verified and get FDA approvals and CE approval for that drug to come into the market. So you're looking at a big opportunity. You can look at a big delta that you can create. So of course, AI is playing a big role in drug discovery, where AI is being used to process a lot of data. So the main benefit of using AI is that it can process a lot of data. It can process humongous amount of data and can make sense out of it. So for example, AI is being used to do simulations. AI is being used to identify different protein structures. AI is used to identify what lab experiments will succeed, what lab experiments will fail with a good probability. So everything in AI is all probability. So that's the drug discovery part, where a lot of effort and resources can be saved using AI, where you are simulating tests. So you don't have to run those tests in lab. Previously, those tests were done by scientists, and with a low probability of success, they never knew. So now having an AI in that space can give them a good estimate, like, okay, what is the probability of this test to be successful? So they can triage their resources. The same time, they can also look for different protein structures. So protein structure is a very complicated thing, and that plays a very important role with drug availability, drug function, pharmacokinetics, and pharmacodynamics. So AI can help in simulation. AI can help in understanding those protein structures. So that can also reduce a lot of time. So to give you an example, Google's DeepMind, I think they helped in finding some drug for liver fibrosis very recently. I think 2-3 weeks ago, I was reading about it. They helped in discovering a mechanism of immunity where it can be used for oncological treatment. So it's already starting to make those big impact. I think its name was AlphaFold. That's the Google's device or Google's product that they are using drug discovery. Then comes to the clinical trial part. In clinical trial part, there is something called digital twin, where you need to recruit those many patients so as the sample size is appropriate, and the results that you generate is not by chance, but it is by the process of scientific process. So there is a lot of time it goes to recruit those patients. So there is something called case and control, and then you give drugs to one group and you give placebo to another group, and you see the impact that is creating. So you want to have very similar case and control, so that the impact that generated because of drug is only because of drug and not because there was a difference between the two groups. So to reduce that time and the resources you needed for that trial, there's something called digital twin that they are trying to use, where they're trying to create a copy of cases, so you don't have to recruit different rows, and they can minimize resources that can do the trials much quickly.
Yeah. So by using these, I think a lot of money can be saved and also time.
Yes.
I think, as you mentioned, drug discovery is a long process.
Yes, long and very expensive.
Very expensive.
Because that ultimately will come to us, right? Because if there is $1 billion, $2 billion spent on a drug, of course they will expect 4 or 5 billion to come from the users. And if you reduce that drug cost from billion to, let's say, 200 million, that's a cost saving for everyone down the chain.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's come to the second part, where the doctors and patients are concerned. How AI is making inroads, and what are the different areas where it is being used?
Yeah, so in clinical space, it's already making a lot of inroads, and in fact, big impact, which I can talk about from my own work. So in clinical space, everything starts from detection. So I can take the example of radiology, which is the most widely space where AI is being used. So in radiology, it's like on chest X-rays or chest CTs or other X-rays and CT scans. These are the digital images, right? So there is a digital footprint of that particular condition. Now AI will be able to identify and detect those findings which were previously either deprioritized or were either missed. So for example, there was an accident or road traffic accident. Now the patient just got wheeled into trauma center. Now the main focus for that trauma surgeon would be to see if there are any traumatic injuries, right? Rib fracture, or is there any hole in the lung, or is there any damage to the heart? So they will do the chest X-ray. They will send that chest X-ray to the radiologist to read those chest X-rays just to confirm there is no damage. Now in that process, if there is a small lung nodule, so lung nodules are precursors of lung cancer. Oftentimes that will be missed because that is not the priority for that patient, right? But that was an opportunity to detect the lung cancer on that patient. This is what we are doing in AI, where for AI, everything will be positive if it's there on the X-ray. It won't differentiate because it's a trauma case, so I will not look for lung nodule. So if AI algorithm for lung nodule is running in the background, it will detect that lung nodule, it will flag it. Of course, you don't have to deal with that lung nodule then and there, but now once the patient is stabilized, when the patient is about to be discharged from the traumatic injuries, you can start the next step for the lung nodule process as well. Because it is also important to save that patient from lung cancer. So that's the part for detection. Now comes the triage part. So for example, let's say there are some cases which are with, in radiology department, there are so many scans that will be lined up for the radiologist. In one of the scans, let's say there is a head injury, a slow bleed, which was never detected, and patient was complaining of non-specific symptoms, and for which the head CT was done. Now the clinician doesn't know because that CT scan has not been opened yet. However, if the AI is running in the background, it will detect there is a probability of this head bleed in this particular scan. It will push that scan up the queue. So for example, there are like 4 scans which are normal. AI will not flag anything. In the 5th scan, there is a, let's say, bleed in the intracranial hemorrhage is there. Now this scan, which is read by artificial intelligence, even before the radiologist has opened this, now this scan will go up the queue. Now the radiologist can look at this scan with a high priority, can identify and can do the speedy triage for that patient. Because all those 4 scans which were normal can be written later on also, right? It's also normal thing. So there's nothing waiting for them to act upon. So that's the triage part. Now comes to the treatment planning. In treatment planning, AI is playing a big role where it is not only helping clinicians to detect those findings, but is also helping to suggest the next steps. So, for example, we have a tool called IRA. It is something like it will be a small assist kind of a tool which will be uh, with the consent of the patient and provider. It will be listening to the conversation and then it will prompt the clinician to ask any particular questions. So this is more relevant for low resource settings where they might not be having specialists. As we know, especially speaking of India, all the specialists are crowded in metro cities. In tier 2, tier 3 town, there are not enough specialists. There are not even enough subspecialists who can provide proper care or proper. They are not trained to even ask the proper question. So this device will act as a tool to bridge that gap of knowledge, and it will ask that patient. For example, if a patient is coming with symptoms of headache, the clinician can ask, or the tool will advise, did you ask for the eyesight check? Did you ask for this head injury? Did you ask for any throbbing headache? All those things that needs to be asked by a professional, a specialist. Those questions will be prompted to be asked by the clinician. And based on the response, it can also ask the follow-up questions. Then next step would be to have to help in treatment planning where based on the education status, based on the preference, for example, there are people who are vegetarians, they are non-vegetarians. How do you suggest the behavioral modification? How do you suggest what would be the treatment pathway that would be most applicable to them, that would be easiest for them to act upon? Because patient adherence is also important part. You can give them a very expensive medicine and probably you don't know that there is a generic available for that, and that patient might not be coming from a very sound financial background. So in that case, AI can also help in treatment modification as well, or customization, treatment customization for that particular patient. So starting from detection, triage, and treatment planning. So AI is playing different role in different aspects.
Just a follow-up question. So when AI is, let's say, is looking at a CT scan or even chest X-ray,
Yes.
how it is able to make out that there is in the lung, there is a lung nodule? How does it detect?
Yes, that's a good question. So, like you teach a kid to identify this is A for apple, this is B for bird. Similarly, we train algorithms to identify this is a nodule. So there is a different branches of AI. There is something called machine learning. This is called deep learning. Machine learning is something where you give some X-rays, you tell them that there is a nodule in it. So you will have the ground truth, which means that the nodule that you detect seeing on X-ray will have confirmation on
Correct version.
Yeah. So you will have the confirmed X-ray with the nodule and tell the AI that there is a nodule with this X-ray. So now AI will start looking for those patterns which will make it, oh, this is some opaqueness, this is nodule. Oh, there is some opaqueness here, this is nodule. Oh, it means that if there is an opaqueness like this in this form, this is nodule. To give an example, for null nodule, our algorithm looks for calcification, absence of calcification. So if there is no calcification, if it's solid, that means a nodule. If there's speculation means basically it's projections. So if a nodule is aggressive, it will start growing, right? So it's like a small hairs on the nodule side. So it will identify those speculations. It will identify the size of the nodule. If it's big, means that something might be important. And everything will have a probability factor associated with it. So it will have the weightages of different parameters. So now based on that, if there is a new X-ray that will have that all those common patterns, it will start ticking off the boxes, it will start giving the weightages, and there is a threshold beyond which it will call positive, below it will not call it positive. So that's why everything in AI is almost a probability.
Right. So another question in this area is the diagnosis.
Yes.
So my personal experience, if I go to two doctors with the same problem, sometimes the treatment can vary.
Yes.
Can AI help reduce that or correct that?
In fact, AI is doing exactly what you're saying. So there is a subjectivity. Why there is a subjectivity with two clinicians? Because there is a subjective evaluation. Someone has seen, let's say there is a doctor who is 15 years of experience. Why we go to 15 years of experience doctor, not to the 5-year one? Because he has seen more data points. His algorithm is better trained. Similarly, for 5-year one, he has seen only number of cases within those 5 years. So his data point might be limited, but better than 1 year experience. So this subjectivity we are reducing through AI, where AI is trained on millions and millions of data points. So now the AI is trained to reduce that data and will help in reducing that subjectivity. We call it inter-observer variability. In statistical terms, it is called there is this observer, there is this observer, because there is a variation of this particular thing because it's a subjective thing. Now, how do we reduce that? By providing AI assistance. So if we provide assistance to this person of this delta, he will be able to perform at this level. So AI is basically unifier, where AI assistance can be used by any clinician to come to the level beyond their license or beyond their experience level, and can get that advantage of the experience that they have not gotten, but because AI is helping them. And we don't do diagnosis in AI. So we do detection. So diagnosis will always be done by a human. So AI is still not there where you will do autonomous diagnosis. People using this on ChatGPT, again, the ChatGPT will also say in their disclaimer that this is should be used with caution. This is not a final diagnosis. You should go to the doctor. So right now, there is a human in the loop across the globe where AI will only help, only supplement, only complement that physician, that clinician, healthcare professional, but the final diagnosis will have a signature of a human.
Correct. Okay. Now coming to the third part of healthcare, which is the administration part. Is AI doing something there as well?
Yeah, of course, AI is playing a very interesting role there as well. So if you look at the healthcare administration part, there are multiple components. There is a supply chain component where that will provide the resources. So the AI is playing a supply chain optimization where you can predict based on your consumption rate of different peripherals that you use in surgeries or you used in hospitals. It can help in maintaining that inventory. In revenue segment or in the department related to finance, it can help in revenue projection based on your data pattern. It can look into multiple elements around what is the incidence rate of different conditions based on the data points of those patients who are coming into the hospital. It can anticipate what should be the domain that should put investment in. Similarly, it can help in scheduling. It can help in bed usage based on the different parameters that's fluctuating, all those variables. You can get a very good guesstimate, I would say, using AI. Based previously, they were like quarterly level projections. Now you can get it on a much more real level, where you can do it a day-to-day basis or even at a weekly level, because you will have much more processing capacity of AI that you can use to predict the demands.
Okay. So coming back to the doctor-patient domain. So one of the things which you mentioned is that which motivated you to do a little more study is that the time when a person becomes a patient.
Yeah.
Okay. So is AI making some inroads there that before I become a patient of anything, can AI detect that or can indicate that, okay, this is going to happen?
Yes, we all are carrying smartphones. There is a level of AI that is being used based on, there are multiple variables that a person can be stopped to become a patient, specifically for chronic conditions where they can maintain their mobility, they can help in nutrition, they can it can help in activity level, monitoring those activity levels, sleep patterns. Sleep pattern is very important. So there are different variables, data points through our smartwatch. I don't use smartwatch, but using our smartphones, there are rings that are available that can give you much more granular data points. Those data points can be used to predict where things are going. So, for example, in diabetes, there's something called HbA1c, where it's an average sugar level of that particular person. So you want to keep it as minimum as possible, and the best way to do that is to help in is to do a lot of physical activity, controlling your appetite, and all those things. All those things can be monitored through these sensors or through these activity monitoring devices, where you can get an idea how many steps you're taking, how many miles you ran, or how deep you are sleeping. All those sleeping patterns can help you to be the person and not become a patient, or at least push it as long as possible.
Correct. So As an extension, you also mentioned about that during the diagnosis or detection, AI can help ask more questions so that there's no subjectivity in the diagnosis. So how
Reduce subjectivity.
reduce subjectivity?
Yeah.
Correct. So this seems to be a pretty good thing. So because in smaller cities where the doctors has mentioned, okay, this can be pretty effective,
Yes.
right? So how this can be used? I mean, this theoretically looks like very effective, right? But how this can be used in India setup, especially?
Yeah, so we are already using it. So we developed that system called IRA that can be used on small smartphones, or it can be used on iPads as well, where you just allow that thing to based on the consent. Of course, the user is clinician. Of course, he wants to use, so he's consented. If the patient is okay, they can keep the smartphone between themselves. It will record the conversation, and it will parse out the details that needs further follow, which the clinician might not be doing if he's very busy. He's not trained, he's not that specialist. He might just ask the small or the early basic questions. He might not drill further. Those are the prompts then it will generate for the clinician to ask. Did you get the history of thyroid? Did you get history of past any accident history or family history? He might not be asking that because he's very busy, because there's so many patients waiting outside. So there is that's what we are using now. So it can be used on small smartphone or a small tablet like this.
So can it also augment the telemedicine facility which many hospitals are offering?
Yeah, in fact, we do something called hub and spoke model, where the hub will be like a tertiary care center. To give you an example, we have something called for stroke. Stroke is a very time sensitive diagnosis, right? So there is a patient who suddenly fell unconscious. Patient's relatives got scared. They brought him in. We did the CT scan. Now the CT scan is done in the peripheral region. There is a diagnostic lab which can do CT scan, non-contrast CT scan, non-con CT. But there is no radiologist who can read that CT, or they are not sure. So in that case, the AI can help in predicting if there is a stroke or not. It will directly tell the hub that there is this patient, and the radiologist sitting in the hub can read that scan, can see the AI finding. If he agrees that this patient is literally having stroke, send that patient early. So now, having that connection from hub, the spoke can start the process of referring that patient to the hub, where the hub will be ready with the surgical team, so that once the patient comes in, they will straight away wheel him in the operation theater. In fact, we did a study where we showed that using this hub and spoke kind of a model saved time to treatment from 80 minutes to 58 minutes. So there was this big time difference we showed because AI was acting in the background and it was getting the information to the right person in a timely fashion. Correct. So in this process, the radiologist who is waiting there can get the right diagnosis. So if the patient doesn't have stroke, so that patient doesn't need to be referred. So that's also cost saving as well, because unnecessarily that patient will come to the hub because they are not sure what's the diagnosis. So in that process, there is a cost and there is a burden on the hub as well, because this patient doesn't need to be seen if there is no stroke. But if there is a stroke, this patient needs to be seen on a priority, because every minute is very important in stroke. So that's how this telemedicine element is also there in this usage of hub and spoke model.
So now moving to a section where there's a new term which people keep hearing, personalized medicine.
Yeah.
So what is that and where is that AI angle into this?
So personalized medicine is basically an element of medicine where it is custom or tailor made for you. So for example, right now we have paracetamol drug 500 mg. I'll get fever, I'll get the same thing. You'll get the fever, you will get the same thing. But we're not same. But why we are getting the same drug dosage? Because there is no data that can help us to alter that. Previously, there were compounders who used to make those medicine, right? And the doctors will ask them to titrate. Of course, they were doing at a very minimal level. Now, this is possible with AI, where, for example, I'm a clinician. Probably I might know what drug I would need if I can take it. And others will have different genomics. So my genes will be different. My genes that will metabolize that paracetamol might act differently. Probably I might have a slow gene. So my paracetamol will remain in my system for long. Yours might be fast. So you might need a frequent dosage to maintain that level in your blood. So that's what personalized medicine or customized or personalized medicine we call it, because it is based on your genomics level, it is based on your physical activity, it is based on your nutritional level, based on various parameters that influence your health. So all those different parameters can be integrated, and a customized solution can be provided. Of course, it's still in a very trial stage. It's not mainstream yet, but now it is possible because you are getting data points from different sources. You're getting data points from your different sensors on your mobility, how good sleep you are getting. What is it? If we know your genomic profiling, that will also play a very important role about different types of drug. What drug will work for you? So, for example, in antibiotics, we start from lowest, then we go up. If we have a knowledge that which antibiotic will work best for you, I'll titrate in that range.
Yeah.
Right now, it's all these medicines are population level average.
Okay.
It's not customized to that human level, which can be done. Those population level average was okay in a population of this many people. This was the average in which 90% people will like. What if I'm 91st or outside that range?
Yeah.
So it has to be customized, and also it will change with time. I am whichever age I am. If I am older, my genes will be acting differently. My genes will be aging slightly differently. So my drugs should be very different from the drug that I prescribe to my patients.
Especially in very serious diseases like chemotherapy.
Chemotherapy, yes.
Yeah, because it causes a lot of problems for people.
Yes. So right now, what we titrate chemotherapy is based on weight, because that's the only macro variable that we can get. So most of the time in chemotherapy, you titrate the dose based on the weight. But that's very crude and very macro level. It should be titrated at the genomic level. It should be titrated at the nutritional level. It should be titrated at the age of that patient. So all those things should come into the mix, which is possible now, because even if you get that data, how will you process it? Now with the help of AI, at least you will have a good idea, okay, what could be the titration dose for that particular patient at that particular time, because things will also change with time. So it's not like whatever dose I am getting today, 2 years also it will be valid because I'm aging. So it has to be titrated at every point of time. That's the ideal scenario, but at least it should be titrated frequently.
So, with all the things we talked about, there are two things. One, if AI can really do what it's promising, will it be a problem for doctors that AI will be able to take over their jobs?
The answer is no. So this was the same scare when we got autopilot. Autopilot started well before AI came into the picture. When autopilot started, people were like, oh, pilots will not have a place in the cockpit, but they're still there. Similarly, AI will only augment, AI will only help, AI will only suggest and complement the clinician's expertise. There will always be a human to in the end or in the loop where human will be taking the final decision. It's just based, it will just help that human to make most appropriate, most right decision for that particular patient or for that particular case. So it will not replace, it will only help. Yes, clinicians who are using AI will be able to replace clinicians who are not using AI over a time. So it's like people who used to do typing on only typewriter. They got replaced if they have not switched to the computers.
Correct.
Similarly, if pilots who were good at using autopilot, they are flying bigger jets. Pilots who never trained or thought that autopilot will not fly, whatever, if they were skeptic about it, probably they will not have that level of license now. Similarly, AI will only help, so it is better to understand, because it's only going to help the clinician to look at multiple perspectives, which was not possible. Even if you provide that data, let's say you give the data of your step count every day to a clinician, how will he process it? He will not be able to process it. So at least AI will make sense of it and will provide options to the clinicians to at least consider these points as well before making the final diagnosis. So that's why AI is not doing diagnosis. AI is only helping with detection and diagnosis.
So, another problem is Typically, doctors are overworked
Yes.
in a lot of hospitals.
Yes.
Okay,
Across the globe.
across the globe. Now, AI is coming to picture. So, on one side, it is going to help them in doing their work. On the other side, it may also increase their work. So, which way it is actually going? It's increasing their work, further adding to the complexity, or it is kind of helping them from burning out.
So that's a burnout is a big problem with the aging population across the globe. The healthcare requirement will only increase. We do not have enough healthcare professional across the globe. That's a common truth, right? That we all agree on that. Yes. So the burnout is a problem. Of course, initially there will be a training curve, there would be a learning curve. So initially they might feel like their work is increasing. But in the long run, once they become more uh, familiar with the technology will also learn. The pattern recognition will become better. The time latency will also shorten. Then it will become much more helpful for the doctors to do much more. So, for example, AI can do a lot of paperwork for the doctors, which they don't need to do. But today they have to do for insurance, for data entry, to record those data points in the EHR. All those things can be automated. So they can focus on the part for which they wanted to become doctor and they should be doing, right? That is healing of the patient. Healing is not only giving medicine.
Yeah.
Healing means communicating with the patient.
The
Healing
touch.
means understanding the patient. How will you understand the patient? You have to understand multiple aspects. It is not only important to get the symptoms and signs which the patient can verbalize. There are so many cues, education level, understanding level, their personal preferences, their nutritional level. They might have some mental stresses. Those cues are not possible currently to process in a small short visit of, let's say, 30 minutes or 20 minutes. It has to be done on a longitudinal format. So it is also constantly changing. The mental stress that I have on Sunday will be very different what I will have on Monday, what I will have on Friday. So all those things. So health is a continuous process. It's a longitudinal thing. It's not like categorical one-time thing. So what happens currently? Patient goes to the doctor. They will get a snapshot at that point where the doctor is communicating with the patient based on the small data point that the patient is telling. Mostly about symptoms and signs and some variables. But there's so many big elements that will ultimately influence the outcome of that encounter. So there are so many other subjective perspectives, elements of that patient. That transition from person to patient, there are so many things that are acting between that transition. Those need to be considered, and that's possible through AI. At least a big chunk uh, can be made sense out of using AI.
So basically, in the long run, it is going to help.
It is going to help. It is already helping. It will only increase in the impact.
So now, changing track. So we talked about AI, and it is definitely going to be helpful. But currently, what are the challenges which industry is facing in terms of using AI effectively?
So any new technology which is as disruptive as AI, there are challenges. Once because this is something new and this has never seen at a scale, at a speed it never seen before in the history. So if I have to divide into 3, 4 buckets, I would call the data is a big challenge because your AI is as good as the data you're trained on. So it's like your student is as good as the school that student went to. Based on what he read or what he was taught, that student will be performing approximately that level. Second would be validation, clinical validation. AI is a algorithm. It's an artificial algorithm. You have to translate that algorithm's value proposition into clinical pain point solution. So there is an element of transition of that value proposition, and there has to be an element of clinical validity. Otherwise, if clinicians are not seeing immediate value or short-term value, they will not wait for the long-term value because then they will like show it there, then come to me, and then it's like chicken and egg. How do we start? So there has to be clinical validation. Then there is a regulatory element. Healthcare is a highly regulated space because you're dealing with lives. So how do you regulate this kind of technology which is still evolving? So there is a gray zone. So for example, right now, FDA and EU MDR, these are the two main regulatory bodies across the globe that are like reliable. So FDA still considers AI as a software as medical device. Basically, it's like being treated as a kind of a software. However, it's not like a software, it's evolving also. So there is a gray zone. Then comes the workflow integration. There's a new device that will disrupt everything. How do you integrate with ongoing workflow? So there has to be a lot of communication. There has to be a lot of convincing that because initially it will disrupt things. Now you have to make a case that this disruption is good in the long run. But how do you convince? Because things are whatever. Because there is a propensity to continue the same momentum, right? There is a resistance to any change in inertia. So that's workflow integration, and then comes the privacy issue as well. There will be concerns from the patients about privacy, so we also have to be even better so that the privacy issues doesn't come up, or at least being solved in a way which is very convincing for the patients and the clinicians.
There's another problem with AI, bias. So how is being dealt with currently in the healthcare industry?
Yeah, so it's same thing. Like if you teach a student only English, they won't know the other language. So currently the bias needs to be looked at, and that's what these regulatory authorities make sure that the data set that the algorithm is trained on before they get FDA approval or other approvals, they are bias free, which means that the data should have representation from different geographies, different types of ethnicities, different types of variations of that particular pathology so that it's applicable. And the data bias generally managed by having bigger sample size. So the bigger the sample size, more fragmented, more proportionate representation of different varieties or different variabilities, the lesser the bias would be.
Can synthetic data help?
Synthetic data does help in filling the gap for rare disease. So, for example, in rare disease, you will get diagnosis mainly from Western countries because they will have all the resources. Now, you don't have any or very less data point from. To give an example, pulmonary arterial hypertension. That's like a rare disease. How do you create an algorithm that is relevant for India as well? In that case, you might have one or two cases of Indians or whatever in the bigger data set of US Western country. So then you replicate and try to amplify that data which is not available using the synthetic data so that the algorithm becomes less biased towards the population which is dominating the data set. So in that way, those variations which are rare, which are difficult to find, which has less representation data set, you can amplify using their synthetic data. And that reduces the biases.
Correct. So now looking ahead, how do you think things are going to move from here in the coming years?
So I'm very excited because I started doing digital health almost like 12 years ago. And that time I was doing telemedicine, digital app, health tracker, all those things. But now we have something that is changing life. So for example, I can talk about the organization that I work in. We work in 100 plus countries. So we are working at a very macro level at different populations we are catering to, and the impact is massive. So there is no going back from this AI thing. It's just going to amplify. It is only going to generate more use cases. It will only going to increase its impact across different points of healthcare or healthcare system.
So you're working in multiple countries. Okay. So there are a lot of countries which are poor.
Yes.
Right. So can AI help reaching out? I mean, providing services to those countries currently can't afford it, or don't have the technology or the resources. Can AI help?
In fact, we started from that. So if I can talk about the organization that I'm currently part of, we started from Mumbai in tuberculosis. So tuberculosis is a condition for countries with low resources. So we started deploying these algorithms in remote regions where there are no radiologists, there is no radiology department. So we take a handheld or portable X-ray machine. We have a makeshift camp. They take the X-ray. they then we connect that machine to a small laptop, and that the laptop will have the AI algorithm. It will process that X-ray then and there, and will give the diagnosis of tuberculosis presumptive or not. In fact, WHO has approved that algorithm to be used in case there is no healthcare professional to give the diagnosis and the patient can be started on tuberculosis treatment.
Okay.
So that is the main use case for us, where we have been deploying this AI algorithms in remotest regions where there is no electricity. We are using solar panels, we are using Starlink to provide that access to healthcare services to people and population which are very, very poor or less educated, and they do not have any access to healthcare services of radiology or getting screened for tuberculosis.
Yeah, because tuberculosis is a big problem in India.
Yes.
So that is very helpful.
Yeah. We are doing it in India. We are doing in Southeast Asia. We are live in multiple countries in Africa as well. Latin America as well. We are live in multiple deployments there, where we are going to these remote regions, having a healthcare professional the bare minimum expertise of reading those X-rays. Basically, he knows how to operate that portable X-ray machine. He knows to manage, run the algorithm on laptop and get the diagnosis, then tell the patient you have TB or not. Or if you have, of course, then do the counseling to make them understand what it is and then start the.
So this algorithm is developed by your company.
Yes.
So basically, it doesn't require any healthcare professional, a general person with some kind of
Portable
skills.
Yeah.
So they can help them.
Yeah. They have to be trained, minimal training.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Now, from a normal person perspective, okay, who is not in the setup of the healthcare, for a patient, for example, they're listening to this podcast, they're saying, okay, AI is making a lot of inroads into healthcare. What should I be worried about? Or should I be asking questions to the healthcare professional, saying that this is what I should be knowing?
So I don't think there is any need to be worried about anything. It's mainly a person or patient can be more curious about how AI is helping or impacting their diagnosis or their clinical interaction. So few things that they can ask, like they can ask their clinician if they are using any AI. If they are using AI, how that AI is helping that clinician to come to a better diagnosis. They can ask about, most of the patient would be concerned about data privacy, so they can also ask about how is their data maintained or what happens to their data point. So, and they can also ask what is expected as a next step. So once that consultation is over, and they can also ask about other tools that will help them to be more adherent to whatever the physician is prescribing. So these are the few fundamental questions that they can start with, and of course, they can take more interest and they can read about it. They can start using. I mean, everyone has access to ChatGPT and Perplexity free version, so they can at least start to understand what is how it can help. They can learn more about their own condition. They don't have to rely on doctor for everything. At least at a macro level, they can understand what is diabetes. Once they will understand, they will be better able to manage it as well beyond medicine, because health is an ultimate outcome based on multiple inputs that goes into it. So understanding of that condition is the very important factor, which clinician won't have much time, or even if they will talk about, they will talk about very high level, or they might go too deep. AI can play a very important role for that patient to understand at the level that they will be able to comprehend. It's like a customized knowledge for them.
They can become more aware what is the condition. Now, talking about the regulations. So US, you talked about FDA, how FDA is treating AI as software. What are other countries doing? I mean, like India, any other country?
So India has CDSCO. So we generally register our all algorithms are CDSCO approved. If you in US it has to be FDA approved. In European Union it is EU MDR. So in different countries have different local regulatory authorities, and they have different approvals that is required and need to that. So for example, in Philippines there is a Philippines FDA that we do that there also. So before we operate in any domain, or any geography, of course, we have to comply with the local regulations, and we do that. We have a big regulatory team that takes care of that.
Okay. Are there any other companies which are working in similar areas to you or similar?
Yeah, there are multiple companies that are coming up in different space. So there are companies in radiology, there are AI companies in digital pathology space as well. Now there are companies coming up in drug discovery. There are companies who are operating in the admin space as well. Insurance is also big space where AI is starting to play a big picture. So wherever there is lot of data and there is a element of subjectivity, AI will have a
I think insurance companies are using fraud detection.
yes, fraud detection and to streamline the processing of claims. So to give you an example, I just filed a claim for insurance, and most of the document that I uploaded was probably read by AI because it was getting done pretty fast as compared to the last claim that I submitted, which took a lot of time where human involvement has been involved. And probably because all the documents were in place, my claim was also settled pretty fast.
So, people, last few questions. People who are listening to this podcast and from healthcare professionals and from the non-healthcare professionals, one piece of like a conclusive remark saying, what should they take away from this that AI is impacting healthcare space?
That's a very broad question. I would think from multiple stakeholders. So, if I have to think from a clinician's perspective who might be using AI for the patient, I would say consider AI as an assistant. So, it will give you the first few pointers to make the final decision, but it will not decide for you. So, for a clinician, it would be an assistant. For a patient perspective, I would say it's a companion. So whatever the clinician is saying, you can better understand. They're using AI. You can also learn about your condition. You can also understand what will be the probabilities if you adhere, if you manage your blood levels or all those biometrics, biovariables. What could be the outcome? So as a companion, I won't call it trusted companion. I would call it companion, at least to understand. And of course, always confirm with your doctors and physician before taking any decision for your healthcare. At admin level, it is someone who is helping you to process a lot of data to make much more precise and more accurate decision.
Now, last question. After listening to this podcast, people will be more interested to have better understanding of the subject. So, how can they contact you?
Now I am mostly available on LinkedIn. I would also recommend that they should also be looking and reading about what's happening in the AI space. So AI space is very dynamic. Whatever I'm talking today probably might become outdated within 6-7 months. I won't be surprised. So whatever we are discussing, that's kind of understanding till today. Yeah. Things will evolve, and it's a very dynamic space. It's growing very fast. It's evolving very fast. So I would suggest it's always good to keep an eye what's happening in this space. Someone who is interested in AI in healthcare, definitely, because healthcare is a space which has not been affected by technology a lot. We still have if you have to think about technology, there are scanners, there is an EHR. There are not many things in between. So there is a lot of opportunities where AI will play a role. So there's constantly something is coming up every day. So I would recommend them to, I get a lot of my news from LinkedIn. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, where I get my most trusted information because there people are, writing and they are posting the reference as well. So in AI space, AI age, we also have to be very cognizant of the fact that there will be a lot of false information floating around. So they should always cross check. They should always go to the references. They should always go to the source from that news is originated.
Right.
So trusted websites, government websites, there are certain key people, like if you follow big companies like Google, Facebook, OpenAI, these are the big companies. They are putting out a lot of stuff. Nvidia, they are putting a lot of stuff around AI and how AI is impacted, because these people are operating at a very core level. So they keep dropping some hints like what's happening there.
Yeah.
And in a few months, this will start impacting us. So it's always good to be aware that's happening.
So thank you so much, Dr. Rohit. It was very insightful. A lot of things actually became clear to me, and I hope to the audience as well. So thank you so much for watching this episode. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.